Good morning, everybody. Sorry, we're about 1 to 2 minutes short. Hopefully, everybody's still on here. Good morning, good morning. You know, this technology stuff, it seems like you get it down to a science and then it changes internally somewhere. So the next time that you use it, I don't know. There's a step in there that changes. So we're just getting started this morning. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. It's a little chilly this morning since we are now into the fall months. I have not broke down and turned the heater on at the house yet, but it's a-coming.
All right. I think we might be ready.
Good morning, Casey. I see you're on there. I don't know. Are we ready?
Yep. I think we're going to try to be ready.
Well, I'm trying
If
to.
we're not ready.
I'm trying to admit people. Did you bring in the? There it goes.
Oh, I should have brought in the other mouse, right?
That's okay.
Make sure that one works. You got us big. Front
I
and
don't
center.
know how I did that.
Wow, got us big front and center.
I'm not used to using a trackpad.
Wow.
You know, these would be good for blooper reels.
Oh, there's always got to be those. There you go. That back. Now that I've got everything working, I think my coffee's cold. But we should be good to go. We're learning today. This is the next step in the process, the learning step.
Yeah, so the first one was awareness.
Yep.
That was the first week. Second week was commitment. Committing to what you become aware of. And now we're talking about learning.
Yep.
So, learning.
Tell me, what do you think about when you think about learning?
It's easy to learn. I mean, I think you can learn. You can learn very, very quickly. It's a little harder to. I don't even know how I want to put that. It's easy to learn. It's harder to continue what you've learned. You know, they say it takes 21 days to create a new habit.
At minimum.
At minimum. That's a long 21 days.
Yeah, I'd say it probably takes a little longer, actually, but.
You know, and if you get set back a day or two, I mean, the key is to keep going, but.
What do you think about when you think about learning? What's the first thing that comes to mind? You're going to learn something.
It depends on what it is.
School.
I do. I think about school.
Right.
But sometimes there's things in school that I love to learn. There was a few subjects that I really enjoyed learning in. There were a few that I did not. So, depending on what the subject is.
What was the core purpose of our modern education system?
Wow, you're going to just dive real deep really quick, aren't you? I haven't had enough coffee for that
Just a quick
yet.
question. What's the core purpose of our modern education system?
Years ago, it was to teach enough that our young women and men could go out and work.
It's a system created to develop workers.
Yes.
To create workers. Right.
Yep.
That has been kind of the core purpose for a lot of years. It's what's driven a lot of our economy. It's what drives a lot of the economy, even in the education system. But there's a fundamental elements that you have to learn when you go to our modern education system. I mean, you are truly learning how to do your reading, how to do your writing, how to become, a mathematician. And even some of that, I think, is being challenged in some ways today. But what I find interesting is the fundamentals of what you learn in our modern school system are not the things that are going to make you super successful in life. It's not the things that are going to make you super successful at your career, at your job, are not the things that you're going to learn in school. You realize that? It's not what you're going to learn in college. It's not what you're going to learn there that's going to make you super, super successful out in the real world.
I agree with you mostly.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Challenge me. What are you
Well,
thinking?
I mean, you learn your basics in school. You learn in college. There's depending, like I've said, I really want my doctor to know what he's doing, and he's learning in college.
At the same time, let's use that example. Let's take a really good doctor, which not everyone's a really good doctor. Not everyone's a really good engineer. Not everybody's you've got really, really good, and then you've got average. And you've got below average in every field of work anywhere. But let's talk about those that are at the top of their game. They're like the best of the best. They're noted all around the world. They've been super successful. They've created systems and programs that are over the top, amazing. I mean, those are the ones you want to identify. Who wants to go and work with an average doctor? I mean, who wants to have an average doctor?
Well,
Or how about a below average doctor? You and I have had experience in that, right?
Right.
So let's talk about for a little bit the really, really amazing people in their field, like the ones that are at the top of their game. What's the one thing they are always doing?
learning.
Learning. They never stop learning.
Well, I think it goes back to that commitment. You have to be committed to learning.
They're committed. One of the things that I put in the chat before we had technical issues, I was putting in a whole element about our modern education system. It's really designed to give us a foundational start. Your reading, writing, arithmetic. We're really going to our modern education system to get a foundation. But that's all it is. It's not the building. You're not set when you go out into the workplace once you have those elements in place. What you've really done is you've created a base starting point. And that now, with that understanding, now it's the ones that are going to rise above what makes them different. In any field, doesn't matter what it is, in any given field, they rise above.
Because they're dedicated to learning.
They're dedicated to never stop growing, never stop improving, never stop learning and pushing themselves to the next level. And that is the one thing that I have learned time and time and time again as you think about the world around mentors and finding mentors that you want to have in your life. Who are the ones that are never going to stop growing? They never stop learning. And that's why this element of personal development right in the middle of it all is this step called learning. It's foundational to our success. But we still haven't touched on the real point I want to make today.
And what is that?
Our modern education system as a whole does not teach us the mindset for success. Do you know that? The mindset for success. What's the one thing you've said about every book that we have on our shelf out here at the office?
That they all really go back to mindset. That's got to be this key starting point.
Everything. Everything goes back to the mindset, the belief system, the vision, the understanding of your purpose, your calling in life. Everything goes back to having a true understanding of who you are. If you struggle with knowing who you are, what your true identity is, if you struggle with knowing who you are, you're going to struggle every single day knowing what to do. Our modern education system is focused on what you are to do every single day. Mm-hmm. when the most important thing that you can be learning about yourself is who you are. What do you think?
I think there needs to be a focus on that. I absolutely do. I mean, I watch so many of these young kids that graduate high school and go off to college, and they just don't have a path. They have no idea. You know, they've been, and we're not here to bash
But why do they have no idea?
because they have never focused on who they are.
Because they don't know who they are. They're still struggling with their own
Right.
identity, right? They're still struggling with knowing who they are. So how in the world are they going to know what to do?
Right.
That's really a struggle, and it sounds too simple. It sounds too simple, but it is not simple. It's extremely hard to learn, to truly, truly learn who you were created to be. You're a human being. You are being something. We're not human doing, but we're taught to do. Now, I will say there has to be action. There has to be action in everything that you do. The law of attraction requires action. What you do is important, but it never trumps who you are.
I agree.
So in the learning process, what have we learned? Awareness. What is it that we really want to raise our awareness of?
Well, here again, it just depends on our awareness on how we communicate, on our awareness on how we speak to people, our awareness on how we think, you know?
So each one of those things is a part of who you are.
Right?
You're either a good communicator or you're not,
Right?
right? You're either a good negotiator or you're not. You're good at delegating or you're not. You're good at selling or you're not. You're going to be good at all these different things. So you're a salesperson. You're a delegator. You're a someone that does something. But understanding who you are has to be part of that component. Because if you don't know who you are as a communicator, if you don't know who you are as a leader, if you don't know who you are as a manager, if you don't know what that means for you, the person, a who you are element, you don't know what to learn. You don't know what to learn. That's the most important part of this whole process of personal growth and development is why are we learning what we're learning? You're going to learn something new every day. Whether or not you recognize it, whether or not you see it and embrace it, you're always going to be learning something new
I
every
learn
day.
something
But why
new
are you
every
learning
day.
it? Why are you learning it?
Because you like to tell me things every day.
Okay, it's obvious I need to shut up now.
No, I learn something every day, whether I want to or not.
Well, but this part of it is something that I had a mentor a long time ago really hit home with me. And he said, Kylan, you've got to stop focusing on learning everything about what you do. Because here's where it boiled down to. I was so focused on the products when I was selling. When I first started selling, those of you that have heard my sales story, I was so scared. I was so scared when I was selling that I would get physically sick driving down a driveway. I would get physically sick just going to a new farmer's place. And I would get so worked up that I just couldn't do the work. I was so scared. And what I thought I had to do, because I grew up in a time where everything you did was about work. You worked and you worked and you worked and you worked. And we were taught to work. And if there's a problem, you worked harder. And you just figured it out. And finally, a mentor told me one day, he said, Kylan, if you're going to be good at this, you've got to learn who you are. You've got to learn to be the person capable of being successful with selling. You have to learn to be the person that knows how to do certain things because you are certain things. You become a person capable of it. That's when I learned the importance of focusing on who I am as a person. Who I am as a person. I stopped spending all the time focusing on products. I didn't spend as much time focusing on my seed product, on my fertilizer products, my chemical products. I didn't spend any more time focusing on that. I learned how to become a speaker. I learned that Kylan is a communicator. I have to be a communicator. I have to learn how to connect with people. I'm a connector. I have to learn how to connect with people. So as much knowledge as I knew about my product, what I didn't know is how to be the best version of me that was attractive to somebody else. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So if I wasn't learning the right things, I was not going to get the right results.
Well, and also if you weren't making that commitment to the learning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a big commitment.
Yep. It's a huge commitment. It's a huge commitment. To learn who you are at the utmost is a huge, huge commitment.
Well, it comes back to your self-evaluation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I will admit, I don't always have the answers, and the ones I do, sometimes they're not the right ones. And it's taken a long time to learn that and making that commitment to changing those things in my life, changing those mindsets, those thoughts controversial thoughts in my head that I always thought was very adamant and correct, but
Such as?
well, we won't bring them up because they're controversial. And
Anybody want to talk about something controversial?
no, but it's the same thing. But you know, learning goes back to anything, but it has to start internally. You know, learning, because there are things that you have to learn about your job. There are things that you have to learn
Oh,
about.
absolutely. I'm not saying that. It went in our sales training program in leadership and sales. The one thing that we do talk about is you have to learn your product. You have to know your product. You have to know your skills. You have to know the product lineup. You have to understand it from your customer's perspective. You have to know your product. However, you're dealing with people. Mm-hmm. So as you learn, for every 1 hour you're learning a product, invest 2 hours in your people skills and how you connect with people, how you understand people. It's a 2-to-1 ratio. Invest more time understanding who you are, how to connect, how to work with people, how to communicate. Work on being the best you that you can be, and then learn your product along with that process.
You know, I know a lot of people that they're in a position in their life that they don't want to be. They want to be somewhere else. They want to be doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a lot of times that they say, well, I don't have time to learn that. I don't have time to focus on that. And it's one of those things that you make the time. You get up maybe an hour earlier. I mean, if there's some place that you want to be in your life, if there's some place that you want to go, if there's changes that you want to make, and you are committed to doing that, you make the time. Like I said, you get up an hour earlier in the morning. You maybe not watch Netflix, maybe cut it short at half an hour and go learn off of YouTube. I mean, there are YouTube videos for just about everything. Go read a book. But you
but
will
know
make
why you're doing that.
right. But you will make the time. You will make that commitment to doing it.
Mm-hmm. But as we talk about this learning element, and then let's get somebody in here off of Zoom. I think we have a couple people on there. As we're focused on this learning element, understand why you're watching what you're watching on YouTube. Because if it's only going to give you more product knowledge, if it's going to give you more insight into somebody else's opinion about politics, is it really going to help you be better personally? That's what we have to ask. Why are we learning what we're learning? Why are we watching what we're watching? Why are we doing what we're doing? And answer that question of why. Is it going to make me a better communicator? Is it going to make me, I watch comedians because it's a way to be a better communicator. They're some of the best
trying to learn how to
communicators.
be funny.
I didn't say I was trying to learn how to be funny. So I'm trying to learn how to be a better communicator. There are times, though, that I will watch a comedian and I'll go back and I'll rewatch something because I like the way he does the timing. I like the way he connects with the audience. I like the way he holds their attention. There's different things you can learn from being as a communicator by watching comedians. Mm-hmm. So anyway, let's see who we have on Zoom that would like to chat with us this morning. Can you go to Zoom?
It's right here.
Okay. So yeah, who would like to chat with us this morning?
Anybody have any
Like we
thoughts
got-
on learning?
I guess I'll start.
Oh, there's Randy.
Oh, yeah.
So
One of the
did we not have
thinking
that
about
fixed?
learning, for
We
me,
got
the
Randy
first thing
coming
that
on
hit
here.
me,
Let's
you hear me?
pull the TV up. It probably won't. I think we're going to have to do that through the headphones. Turn that back on to the Rodecaster and grab your headphones. That's what we're going to have to do.
Sorry, Randy.
Give us a
Hold
second,
on a
Randy.
minute.
We're still in the process of switching over. We forgot to do that this morning. My bad. Now Becca can hear you. Okay, Randy. What do you got for us,
Can you hear
buddy?
me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Well, the first thing that hit me when you mentioned learning, is remembering. I'm in the path of trying to learn how to speak Spanish, and for a 60-year-old, that's a kind of an uphill battle. So, you can learn it, but you have to remember it at some point. So, I don't know if that adds anything or not, but doing things in a way to remember is, as you get older, it's harder to remember things.
Well, I know being in school, the way that I learned and I remembered was when we had a test coming up over a chapter, I would almost have to rewrite the whole chapter. I would have to, instead of taking notes, but it was that, I guess, rewriting it, and that's how I learned. I couldn't just read it because I would read it and I would read the page over and over again like 5 times and still not understand what I read.
Right.
But if I wrote it down while I read it, that was the easiest way for me to learn. Everybody learns differently. Somebody can watch a video and learn. I have to take lots of notes. Some people are visual, some people are hearing. A lot of people I know listen to audiobooks, and that doesn't work for me because I don't stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
I'll listen to it and then I'll start, thinking of the 47 other things in my head, and I don't hear it.
That's another.
Yeah, for me, I've found that remembering is a process of doing the same thing over and over again to remember it,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to learning computer stuff. If if there's more than 2 ways to do something on a computer, I only want to know one way. And my staff gets frustrated because they'll say, well, here's an easier way of doing this. And I'm like, no, I know how to do it this way. Don't mess me up by
Yep.
showing me another way.
And that's funny because I know Alyssa used to have a math teacher that they would do their math problems and she would count them wrong because they had the right answer, but the teacher did not understand the process. She knew how her process, but she didn't understand if the kids used a different process. They still got the same correct answer, but she couldn't figure out, and it was an issue. But like you said, I've learned it this way. This is what works for me. And then the other part of it is, once you go through all these steps, if there's one step in there that maybe you forget or you miss, and you can't figure out, just like a recipe. You have a recipe in your head and you do it, but maybe you forgot the baking powder and you get done with it and you're like, well, why didn't this turn out? Why didn't this work like I thought it was going to? Because there was one step in there that maybe you forgot.
You want me?
Go ahead.
You want me to join in? I was a little late coming to the party. I didn't hear everything Randy said, but a couple of different things that come to mind when you think about what Randy was saying, what you mentioned. I know this way to do it. There's an easier way, but I don't need to know that. There are things that we have to be willing to accept sometimes, is that there may be changes that we have to make. On the other side of the coin, though, what's most important? Results. The results. And sometimes we lose focus on that. The most important thing is results. If you're not getting results, then there's a problem. And we have to be willing to change if we're not getting results. So it's interesting, as Randy was saying that, as you were giving the example of Alyssa's teacher, I quite frankly don't care about the process that somebody uses to get to a result unless it's so inefficient that it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Efficiency matters. And if we're doing something that is so inefficient that it just doesn't work in our modern business world, we have to make changes.
I agree. I mean, there's things that, especially with technology and everything that's come about, things that used to take 10 hours now take 2. Mm-hmm. And it's being willing to learn that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The biggest thing is getting to a result, and that's the thing we always have to focus on. And I, from my own perspective, there's been things that I thought I was doing that was really good, really efficient. I thought I was doing it the right way, and then I learn it from somebody else, and it's like, wow, that was amazing. I needed to know that. I learned how to be better by working with my mentors and working with people. But again, at the end of the day, results. It's what you got to hit on.
Yep, and listening and being willing to hear the different ways of doing things, and the different ways of maybe getting better, or because some people are kind of stubborn and don't want to listen to that.
Some people don't want to get better.
Yeah, they just...
That's a problem.
I know. They like
All
the
right.
attention of being on crutches, but, sometimes...
All right, now that was uncalled for.
Okay.
All right.
Any other comments on learning? All right.
Well, so here's my ending challenge. Do you have an ending challenge?
Sure. I think our people love a challenge.
Well, first of all, for the ending challenge, and this is probably my one and only ending quote here is, why are you learning what you're learning? You're going to be learning something new every single day, but understand why you're doing something. It's the whole purpose of the 6 steps in personal development: awareness, commitment, and learning. Next week, we're going to talk about implementation, right?
Yep.
Step number 4 is to implement what you're learning. When you get to this phase, understand why you're learning something. If you don't know the why, this is going to be a struggle for you. And I've heard so many people in their personal development journeys who have struggled in getting successful results because they're learning all the time, but they're learning the wrong things. They're learning the wrong things. So know why you're learning something. Understand that when you learn a specific thing, that there's a specific reason that's going to move you to your goal. It's going to move you to the vision for your life. It's going to move you to where you're supposed to be going, and you're learning something to take you further, faster in this journey. And if we don't understand why we're doing something, why we're learning something and doing something, we're going to miss out. And that's a foundational key. Know your why.
Well, and that's a big one because especially in, our small business that we have started, there's been things that we have had to learn and do that maybe we necessarily don't care for. And it's hard, and it's things that, I've never really wanted to know how to do, but it is a must, and I have to learn it to get us to that goal or get us to where we want to go. And without that knowledge, without learning that stuff, would be a misstep that could hurt us in the future. Mm-hmm. So, Britt made a comment that maybe one of the chats needs to be what is learning. Going back to the foundation of it, what is learning? And so we'll have to remember that.
Why don't we do something on that this week and put it out to the audience? What is learning?
Okay. Put that on your calendar.
It doesn't take too long to do that.
Okay.
What is learning?
All right.
Okay, that's all I have. Rebecca, next week, implementation.
Next week is implementation. We kind of touched on it a few weeks ago, but we kind of skipped the ball, but we'll go a little bit deeper on it. Taking this learning and that's the action step is implementing. Mm-hmm. So we will do that next week. Everybody have a great week. Bundle up. It's getting a little colder.
Make it awesome.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya. God bless.